Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Today is Sunday, so for those of you who live in the United States, whose states still do it, you fell back last night, so if you haven't set your clocks, please do so. That way you're not late for the work tomorrow or whatever your other meetings are. Today I want to talk about a what-if scenario. So a lot of our readiness preparations for emergencies, the assumption is that we will always pretty much stay in or shelter in place. So our shelter in place is typically our home or place of residence, wherever we live. So my question is, what do you do if that location in which all your resources are stored, you have to leave? So some examples of those types of situations could be flooding, wildfire. Some of those things, I mean, you can't fight a fire, you can't fight a flood. Well, you can, but you're almost inevitably going to lose unless you have a lot of money and can really build a fortress around your shelter, your property. Those things are going to take over. Now, first off, there are some things that you can try to do to mitigate the potential of these events occurring on your property or on your house. So, for flood, the best thing is to do an analysis first. Determine, is this place liable to flood? Maryland has had 2,000-year floods within like a couple of years. So I guess first off, a little bit about what that means. So they talk about a 100-year flood. They talk about a 1,000-year flood. That does not mean that it's going to occur or that it will only occur once every 100 years or once every 1,000 years. What that means is there's a 100th and a 1,000th% chance that any storm that you receive will flood to that degree. Okay, so if you didn't know that, that's what that means. So at any potential storm, there's a 100th or a 1,000th% chance of inundation by a flood that is severe. So are really severe. So that's one thing that you can do. So, you want to find a place that's not going to be susceptible to flooding. For some of us, that's not necessarily something that we can do. We can't, we're not all rich. So we can't, buy this pristine, beautiful place in the middle of, where we would like, that meets all the criteria that we would like this place to have. So one of the things that we can do is try to protect that there, but probably more importantly is we need to have a plan, a written plan that is going to cover whatever the event is that we want. Everybody knows that's listened to me for probably more than 10 minutes. I am very big on having a written plan so that everybody knows what to do when something happens. So in addition to that initial plan, so like our first plan is, in the case of an emergency, we're going to shelter in place. Our house, a place on our property that we've got, that we've built to, for such an emergencies. But the best thing is to also have an alternative, a backup plan, if you will. So when something occurs that causes change to the initial plan. So first our plan is we're going to shelter in place, whatever the emergency is. But in the case of, like I said, a fire or flood, it's probably going to be untenable. So we're going to have to leave that initial location. So that means that you need to have identified ahead of time where it is that you're going to go, and perhaps even have stored some of your supplies there. We did the video a couple of days ago talking about the top 5 mistakes, and one of those mistakes was having all of our supplies in one location. And if that one location is our shelter, where we're going to be sheltering in place, and now we have to leave it, you're basically only going to be able to pack whatever you can carry out. Now, typically, for most folks, that's about maybe 30 to 40 pounds worth of stuff. And that's a pretty heavy pack, especially if you've got to go any distance. Now, if you can get out and drive and store some stuff, you can probably carry a little bit more, maybe, I don't know, up to 1,000 pounds perhaps, depending on your vehicle and, if you have a trailer. So even so, that's not going to give you a lot of resources to survive until things become normal again. Provided that they will be able to. So you need to think ahead of what steps that you can take that will enable you to survive, again, at least 3 to 6 months somewhere other than your shelter. Okay, somewhere other than your primary place that you're going to shelter in place. And this can impact a lot of people. So think about that. The other part we're going to talk about is fire. So fire and flood have a lot in common. I did a blog article that I posted where I compared the events and then the after effects of the events for fire and flood, because they do have some commonalities. One of those is the fact that it takes in a larger area than a lot of storms. Even tornadoes. Tornadoes, they typically have, the path of the tornado itself, and then some of the wind effects. Straight line winds are usually accompanied with these tornadoes. And they can down trees and stuff, but those are kind of short-lived. So, even a tornado, the event itself is short-lived. The after effects, usually, I don't know, a week, maybe 2 before they can get the power back on and things become kind of normal again. But in a fire and a flood, the after effects of those are significantly longer. In the case of a flood, there are a lot of additional secondary events that can occur. So in a flood, you have, like fuel tanks, gas tanks, like LPG kinds of tanks. You have chemicals. Sewer systems can become overtopped, and then the raw sewage can be distributed throughout that water. You have, dead animals and stuff, so you have diseases that can be passed around. So there's a lot of secondary impacts from a flood. In the case of a fire can be good, especially for the land, because it does cleanse it. But anything that we have built on top of that land is pretty much going to be fried, literally. So you can, to try to fight these things is almost akin to being suicidal, because trying to stop some of these wildfires, once a wildfire gets going, that thing usually lasts for a while, and it can burn a large swath of area. So if all of your supplies are in your shelter and you have to leave it, there's going to be you're almost going to be in the same boat as most of the people in the world. You know, you're not going to have enough resources to survive any length of time. So then again, you're going to be dependent on either the government or other people, or you're going to have to resort to becoming like some of the other people and going and taking somebody else's stuff, which then that presents a whole different set of dangers to you. So the first thing, again, as I said, is have a plan and then have a backup plan. So my first choice is always going to be to shelter in place, obviously. But the alternate is to have a location that is in a secure location, that you already have some supplies and some resources already established there, or you have different caches and stuff. Now, caches, I get asked that question a lot. Do I believe in caches? Yes. But the problem is you have to have a place that is not going to be impacted by the same event that your shelter is going to be. So like if I have, a storage facility 5 miles down the road, probably not the best location, because that potential for that to be impacted by the same event that's impacted my shelter is pretty great. So at least have, if you do the storage facility kind of thing, do it in another town or perhaps even another state, especially like if you live along the coast for hurricanes. If you have a hurricane and all your supplies are in a shelter or in a storage facility within a couple of miles or even 10 miles of your shelter, there's a good chance that it's also going to be impacted by the same system. So that's not going to help you much. So in this case, I would probably do something inland. So like, along the eastern coast, something in the next state west, so like Virginia, somewhere in West Virginia, Carolinas, somewhere in Kentucky or Tennessee, Georgia, same, Tennessee, Florida. I would probably do at least northern Georgia or Tennessee, so on and so forth. So the same along the southern coast. So Alabama, you got Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Louisiana. You need to go north at least from those. Texas, same thing, northern Texas, Oklahoma. So wherever it is that you need to recon and find a location, as I said, that will not be impacted by the same system that's impacting where your primary shelter is, okay? So you need to do that before the storm occurs. So before, this is what we call planning. That's why we plan this out. Find a location. There's different techniques. We can help you with that. That's some of the stuff that we do. I use the geospatial knowledge that I learned in the military to help do this. So, there's classes that we teach that can help you with this. But the trick is, if you really want to survive, then you need to have an alternate plan, a backup plan. You need to have some kind of a location. Folks that are homesteaders or, live off the grid, a lot of those places are pretty much, they're pretty safe from most events, but there is almost none of us that would be safe from a wildfire. Now, for a wildfire to help protect us against that, there are things that we can do. We can do what we call fire breaks, where you clear lanes across the property or around the property to help stop the fires getting to the location that you are. The problem is, if the wildfire is large enough, it can jump even the largest fire break. So it's always a good idea to have a backup plan. You need to have a plan. If the plan is only in your head, then it's not a plan, it's an idea. And if you're the only one that knows that plan, then if something happens to you, then your family, your friends, your group aren't going to know what to do. Okay? And then once you have that plan, then you need to rehearse that plan. That plan needs to become built into the muscles, what in the military we call it the muscle memory, so that it's something that becomes something you do without thinking. Example I use in my classes when I'm teaching about building muscle memory and plans is, brushing your teeth or driving your car. For the most part, most of us have been driving so long that, we drive without even really thinking about what we're doing. We don't think about keeping the car centered in the lane because we automatically do that. We know how to do that. Brushing your teeth, most of us have brushed our teeth so many times that you do it without even really consciously thinking about it. So that's what this plan needs to be. This plan needs to be ingrained into your muscles so that when the event occurs and you have to actually execute this plan, you do it without even really thinking about it. So, and that's why having all the stuff staged, as we called it in the military, where you have it pre-positioned, is so important, because then, I don't have to go running around trying to find all of the stuff that I need for the emergency. Pretty much, I'd say that most folks have, survival items in their home, flashlights, water, food, etc. But, the flashlight's in a drawer in the kitchen, food's in the pantry in the kitchen. So, if I have to bug out, leave my primary shelter, then, they're running around scrambling, trying to get and find all these different items. Clothing is another. So the clothing is typically in a dresser or a closet somewhere in the house. So, and if you've got, 2 or 3 kids or even more, trying to get enough items of clothing and food and, activity materials, coloring books, whatever, to leave your primary residence is going to take some time. Now, the upside of floods and fires is typically you do have some advance notice. Typically, it's not a lot of time, but you do have some time. So you can go around finding these items, pack your stuff, get the heck out of Dodge, and then get to a safe location. But if you don't know where that safe location is, there is a chance that you can run into the same system, but in a different location. So that's why it's important to do your analysis of your primary shelter, your primary home, your location, and in the backup plan, you'll do the same analysis to find a place that is going to be safe, at least from the initial system. Now, if there's multiple wildfires going on, then, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But then that's when you have a backup to the backup. And you have to be able to adjust. And that's the difference between being prepped and being ready. As I've stated in other videos, and I'll probably continue to state in all these other videos, being ready doesn't mean that it's not only having the resources that you need, i.e. what I define prepping as, but it also means having the mental attitude of doing what it's going to take in order to survive the event. Because during the event, that is pure survival. As the event is occurring, that's going to be survival. Then you're going to have to just do whatever it takes to get through to the other side of the event. Once the event has passed, that's when you can come back to some semblance of normal, even if that normal is not the normal that you had prior to the event. You know, for example, if you get flooded out and you have to move to a different location, during the flood and during the move, you're in survival mode. You're going to do whatever it takes to make it through to get to your alternate location and reestablish a new normal. Okay, so in the case of this, a new normal may be, I don't have a washer and dryer now, and now I got to wash clothes by hand, and I got to hang them on a line or trees, branches, or whatever, until I can establish the new normal where I have the stuff that I need in order to, wash and dry my clothes. Same thing with cooking. Initially you may have to cook over a campfire, an open campfire. But if you have a new location, even if you don't have something there, if you're going to be there for a while, you can start to build your own shelter. You can build a cabin, you can build different types of shelters that are available out there. So having the mentality to survive is something that's pretty important. It's going to get you through more emergencies than having a whole stockpile worth of stuff. I can have a whole warehouse full of items and not survive. And I can have absolutely nothing and still survive. So it's mostly what are you going to do in preparing yourself mentally for the challenges that you're going to face. Okay, so that's the show for today, a video for today. I probably won't be posting for the next few days because I am going camping. I'm going to do some videos. I'm going to work on building a site so that I can show what I'm talking about as far as establishing a new normal. So I have some property that is close to here, and right now I do not have any other structure on there. So I'm going to set up a camp. This may take a while because it's not going to be once I establish the new normal, that's going to take a while because I am going to build a cabin out there. But I probably won't be able to do it in the amount of time that I have out there. So what I will do is I will build some hasty shelters to show what that looks like or what that can look like. There's many ways to catch fish, and then there's many ways to reestablish a secure camp. Okay, so we're going to do that. Or I'm going to do that. That's the stuff that I love. When I'm going back to the woods, that's the place that I'm most comfortable in. That's where I love to be. So hopefully when I do come back, I'll have some video that I can edit and create some videos to show, how you could go about reestablishing a safe location, even if it's dire circumstances. Just because we have an emergency, just because our things are getting switched around and stuff, doesn't mean that we have to be uncomfortable. So I plan to build some furniture out there, a table. I'll have a fire. Eventually, when we get the cabin built, it'll have a fireplace in it. So all of the things, all the comforts that we need. There'll be a trained facility. So, that's all part of the living out in the woods. So, but having a facility is a little better than just copping a squat somewhere in the middle of the woods. So, done that too. That's part of the challenges of living like this. But if your mental state is dreading this kind of environment or this kind of a situation, it's not the right attitude. Okay. I always say it's another day in paradise, even then it's, bad. When I was deployed to, Desert Storm, to Kosovo, to Kuwait, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, all these other nice vacation resorts that Uncle Sam used to send us to. It's those types of situations are challenging, to say the least. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of danger involved. So if you can look at it two ways. Yeah, this sucks. Yeah, okay, it does. I've had sand in places I didn't know I had places till I got sand in there. So it's not exactly the funnest location to go to, but if I mentally prepare myself to make it through whatever happens, whatever comes up, try to anticipate, how bad it's going to be. And then I say, okay, it's going to be bad, but I'm not going to let it win. I'm going to win. So mentally setting yourself up to make it through is going to get you through the situation, whatever it is. Whether it's a combat situation or whether it's a tornado or a fire or a flood or hurricane or whatever it is. Make the best of what you have. Be thankful for what you have. And do those things that you need to protect yourself and those that you care about. So hopefully when we come back, we'll have some good video footage that we can put up here to show some of these different things that we've talked about. Hopefully we can show you how to do some of these different things. So until the next time, I thank you for stopping by and checking out the videos. I hope you get some, information, some kind of a nugget that can help you to be ready yourself and to help others around you be ready. So remember the core of calm. That's going to get you through a lot of stuff that I don't know that unless you've been in those situations, it's hard to really fathom the things that can happen. So remember the core of calm. Subscribe to our channel, please. We want to be able to help others to be ready so that when something happens, you are not impacted at all by it. That's our goal. That's what we want to do. If you have any comments, please leave them in the space below the video or shoot us an email, guy@greatlivingsources.com. Visit our website, greatlivingsources.com. If you have a question that you want to ask about, you're not sure how to do something or you need help to assess, where you are in your preparations and being ready, shoot us an email. We can, we help with that. If you don't have a plan and you want a plan, we can also help you to do those too. So let us know. We will help as much as we can. And until probably the end of the week. Okay. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.